in New York until you're 21. Anyway, do you want to introduce yourself to the chat?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of your chat probably won't like me, but that's fine. My name is Acheeto. I make commentary videos on YouTube, uh, and a lot of you probably won't like me. And I don't know. I mean, I think I don't. I'm not very into politics. I mean, not in terms of YouTube. Like, I like watching political videos. I wouldn't say that I'm like very right or left leaning. I know on Discord. I actually looked it up because my Discord profile picture is a John Doyle right now.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. Yeah, we
Um,
know we know about John Doyle
and,
here.
and I and I realized that you probably have a strong hatred for that guy, which is fair.
I don't really hate him. I don't think I care about John Doyle enough to hate him.
That's fair. Yeah, I actually don't really, believe it or not, have like a strong like political affiliation. Like I used, because I honestly like I'm very open to like a lot of different opinions. Like I used to watch um a lot of Destiny on Twitch, but then I just kind of stopped being interested. So I just kind of like I'm more into politics for like an entertainment aspect, at least on YouTube, because I'm here to watch and get entertained rather than to like learn. Because learning is cringe. Um, so I like to like funny stuff or whatever. If people can make politics interesting, then I'm interested. Anyway, I don't know how much time I have, but actually, first of all, is there a way that I can like see your chat? Because like I'm looking on YouTube, it's
Oh,
like not showing.
yeah. I actually have like a website, my own custom website, where I embed my YouTube stream. It's got a custom chat with custom emotes and its own whole thing. If you want to see that, you can just go to xanderhal.com/live, and you can make an account if you want, but you can also just look at it. And it's also on the side of the screen. I encourage people watching on Twitch and YouTube to come over to the website as much as possible. But I imagine you want to talk about uh, I
Oh,
imagine you
there
want
we
to talk
go.
about the JonTron video that I made yesterday.
Yeah. So basically, like I wanted to make a video about like because I am interested in cancel culture. I wouldn't say that JonTron got like canceled from that, but he definitely was getting shit on a fair amount on Twitter, which kind of bothered me, um, because and the way that you framed it in your video. Let me just hold on. Let me just pull this up right here. Uh, yeah. So like I watched it. Because I actually didn't. I heard about what happened. I don't know if you know who Omni is. He's like Keemstar, but he's black and he even does like news videos. I
Yeah,
like him.
I know about Omni. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen his stuff.
yeah. And so he made a video, but I didn't like watch the whole thing. But I was like interested, so I was just like looking for like a short explanation.
Hmm.
And your title is like JonTron is anti-vax, whatever, and you're like you were kind of like very critical of him in the video, and I guess what I try to understand is uh did he like explicitly say like, oh, like do not get the vaccine or I'm not vaccinated or anything like that? Like I'm just curious.
So anti-vax narratives are pretty complicated to track. If you remember back in the day, like go back 5 years ago, and like anti-vaxxer cringe Facebook memes were like
Right.
the number one thing to make fun of, right? And it was always this unhinged shit. Like the vaccines have insert evil chemical that'll kill you in it, or it makes you autistic, so on and so on. And those talking points are still going around. But more contemporary anti-vax talking points, much like other political talking points over time. Like if you look at conservative videos from 2016 and conservative videos now, there's a pretty big difference and like a step up in the way that these topics are discussed, right? Like any left-wing YouTuber now can go back to a 2016 skeptic video and tear it apart, but talking points evolve as like the political climate changes. And nowadays it seems like to be an effective anti-vax advocate, the way that you do it isn't saying don't get vaccinated, yada yada yada. You appeal to people's sense of wanting freedom and self-determination while sowing doubt about the vaccine in their mind, and basically lead them to the same conclusion, but implicating yourself less in the in convincing them to make that choice. I've noticed that a lot of anti-vaxxer types nowadays have been saying, ask your doctor, or do your own research, or do what you think's best for you, which just seems like a very big cop-out way of saying if you don't want to get vaccinated, or if you think the vaccine causes autism or has little spiders, or there were people saying that there's little like tentacle creatures inside the vaccine. Legitimately, there are people who believe that. It just seems like a less crazy way to push anti-vax rhetoric.
Okay. I mean, so yeah, like that's probably right. Like obviously if you say that, be skeptical, like that's definitely going to play into the people that actually don't want to get vaccinated because they believe there's spiders and shit in it, right? Like it kind of makes them feel smart or whatever the fuck you want to say. But first of all, I feel like I should clear this up. Like I am fully vaccinated. I got Pfizer. I got the double shot. And I just like it just sort of bothered me that like because I went to the quote retweets and God knows Twitter is just shit, but like I go to the quote retweets, I just see everyone just tearing on JonTron, and I know I've looked it up. You've had a history about JonTron or whatever and stuff he said in the past, and I don't even want to talk about that because, frankly, like I just don't know him enough about that. I was like really young when most of that happened. Like some old debate where he was like someone said he's like a Nazi or whatever. I don't even
He
want to talk
debated
about that.
It's Destiny's biggest debate. It's what caused Destiny to blow up as big as he is now,
Really?
as big as he was at his peak. It was
Oh, I didn't even
that
see
was it.
that.
That debate, like especially for me in particular, was what brought a lot of people in discovering Destiny and moving a lot more left politically. Because JonTron was more or less so at the time of that debate. I'll contextualize it, and I'm not going to use like this as an argument against you because I know you're not as informed about this entire debate and what was talked about and everything. And I don't want to be unfair there, but basically back in 2016 there was this big push where like there was this community on the right on YouTube, like the right dominated YouTube. Everyone from like Sargon of Akkad to like Paul Joseph Watson to Andy Worski. Like there was this whole community of like decidedly right wing content creators criticizing the SJWs as they were. And also being friends and being very close to like left-wing content creators like Chris Ray Gun and Chew on Head. And you saw this like ambiguity about like, okay, so who's pushing literal like right-wing Nazi propaganda and who's just like an anti-SJW. They just don't like when crazy like feminists say men bad, right?
Yeah.
And we found that like a lot of these figures ended up coming out as being full-on Nazis or just having a lot of really fucked up things about them. Like I think Shoe Nice was one of those people. If you know he's sort of an old school meme, but if you know about him, his life went really down the rails, and he used to be part of that like anti-SJW crowd, I believe. Andy Worski was also part of that. And the big one was JonTron, because JonTron came onto Destiny's stream and started repeating these talking points that are literally Nazi talking points, like white nationalists, like pro-white ethno-state, pro, like, all that kind of shit, talking points. But they'd sort of been repackaged in a way that didn't sound like traditional bigot rhetoric, and Destiny just managed to tear those arguments apart to a degree that surprised a lot of people, and that debate in particular is just what blew up his channel and made him into who he is now.
Cool. Yeah, I just like I knew a little bit about that. Obviously, I went at one point probably. I guess it's because I remember now. Like I went to like Destiny's channel and you sort by most popular. I think I did see that, but basically what I guess like when I wanted to make a video about this, and I still might not, but I just it bothers me because I mean you could obviously make the argument that, oh yeah, anyone who questions what Fauci is saying, or the effectiveness of vaccine, yeah, they could be dog whistling or however you want to say, that they have some sort of like underlying motivation that, oh yeah, they're actually anti-vax and this is how they're saying it or whatever. But I don't think that that's fair to say, because from what I looked at, and if there's something I missed, please tell me, but I literally just looked at a bunch of tweets where he just literally was just memeing and being skeptical of the effectiveness of the vaccine. And I honestly, like, I mean, you could say that that's like harmful or whatever. But I don't know if that like just on surface level is like, I mean, maybe I'm just not reading too deep into this, but I just didn't know if it was like that bad at all.
Those tweets themselves, honestly, compared to the last two things that like political dramas that have happened with him, I think are probably the most mild. Obviously, there was the Destiny thing back in like 2017, I think it was, if I remember correctly. But then more recently, when the election happened, there was the election coverage drama that he got into. He claimed that America was a banana republic and that the election was not legitimate and that Trump had actually won and Biden had stolen the election. He outright said it, that like the election was stolen from Trump. Oh, the fuck? Did my Discord just restart? We good? Stream's still live, right? Oh, there we go. It's fucking weird. Where did I cut out for you?
You said something about I don't even know what just happened. You said something about him saying the election wasn't, or that it was stolen or something.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. My Discord just restarted for some reason.
That's weird.
Anyway, I got a gift. Oh, okay, that's what happened. Somebody like gifted something to me on Discord, a Nitro gift, and that crashed my Discord and made it restart. Weird. Anyway, so basically he started pushing the narrative that like the election had been stolen from Trump on Twitter, and that got him into some drama at the end of last year and beginning of this year. And then he's come out with like the sort of denying the validity of the vaccines. And then on top of that, one of the videos he posted had several like, he posted a video and it was like the
I saw that. I watched that.
Yeah. And there was like multiple images he showed in there that were just like one of them was an image from an article from 2011.
The Japanese kids. I saw that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know if like, and I know your chat. I'm looking at it now. It's like that he's just memeing or whatever, you know, being ironic or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, to an extent, like. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like to an extent you're just looking a little bit too deep into it. Like obviously, yeah, he did kind of just sneak that one in there or whatever, and maybe I don't know if he made the meme or if it's a repost, but like
I doubt he made it.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he did too, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that he has malice behind this. I don't think most people in the political scene that I think are wrong are motivated by malice. I think that he genuinely believes what he believes, and when you're an ideologue and you believe in something hard enough, it is very easy to fall into the trap of believing the ends justify the means, and regardless of the truthfulness of statements you might make, it's okay because we know we're right, and in the long run it'll be okay. And lefties do this as well. The left does this plenty, and I don't really agree with that behavior, and I think that's what JonTron's doing. I think JonTron really does believe that the vaccines are not as effective as they are and that they can be harmful, and he's willing to do anything it takes to convince other people of that because he believes it's true, even if it means maybe fibbing a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue though I have is that you're set, like I really don't like the because I'm just reading in your chat. I don't know if this is like what you're saying, but it's like anti-vax propaganda or like he's pushing an anti-vax agenda or something. I don't know if that is true. I just think being a skeptic is not propaganda. And you know, obviously, if you want to tie this back to his history or whatever, you could always say, you know, oh yeah, you're fucking stupid. He's not just being a skeptic. He's obviously pushing whatever the fuck narrative. But like, dude, like to an like from just cut and dry, like just looking at, you know, I'm looking at what is this, three or four tweets right here from today. I don't even like legitimately, if I wasn't vaccinated, I wouldn't be like, and I was planning to get my vaccination or something, I wouldn't be like, oh shit, oh, it's not even effective, I'm not going to get it. Like, I don't think this is like really telling people or gonna de-incentivize people from getting the vaccine who are considering it. Like, that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really change the fact that he posted it anyway, but the problem is when you're a large figure and you have a big public platform where a lot of people follow you, and of course it is sort of compounded that he's had many bad and very questionable political takes in the past. When you consider the fact that he has the audience that he has and he's espousing those opinions on that platform, you know, people look up to him. Is it an
opinion, though? I mean, he's just sort of like, I don't know. Well,
regardless of whether or not it's an opinion, if you're airing it to a large platform, you are still you are a mouthpiece for that opinion. You are giving credibility to that opinion. Regardless of your credentials, people respect JonTron. People love JonTron. Look at any video I've made about him in the past and look at the comments section. He's got a rabid and very defensive fan base. And I found, and this is what I take the most issue with. Honestly, JonTron can be politically the biggest fucking Nazi that there is, as long as the people who continue to watch them are just like, yeah, I don't like his politics. He's just funny. I like to watch him. I'm completely fine with that. The problem is when I responded to JonTron's talking points and his political opinions that I took issue with, the people who were coming into the comments to defend JonTron, and I know this isn't every JonTron fan, were doing exactly what I was accusing JonTron of. For one, they could not stop saying things like the N-word. I know YouTube auto-filters comments with slurs in them automatically from your comment section, but they still notify me of those comments in the little notifications bell thing that pops up when you get a new comment. So just dropping slurs, like talking about the Jews running the world and that JonTron is right, and yeah, JonTron's based. It's those people that I take the most issue with. I don't want those people to feel empowered because their favorite gamer YouTuber believes in the same things as they do, because that just cements them further in their already crazy beliefs. I don't necessarily believe that some, innocent JonTron fan is going to be corrupted by his anti-vax tweets.
Okay, I guess. Okay, listen. Like the biggest the thing that I don't understand is it's like I don't is like. Sorry, like obviously I wouldn't stutter if I was like a pro debater or whatever the fuck. This is why.
No, it's like it's low. This is low stakes stuff. Don't worry, it's all good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But because again, like this is why I do YouTube, like so I can actually speak coherently. I don't go live. But I just like the video thing that he did with the do whatever where he snuck in the four the four Japanese kids or whatever, like that like the he has like it's 100% effective, it's 70% effective, it's 0, it goes in that order or whatever, like that isn't he always like whoever's meme this was just took a bunch of screenshots, lined them up in that order, and he reposted it, and he's imagine having a single inquiry regarding the science, my dudes. Like I don't understand, like you can be skeptical of anybody on any side ever, right? Like
I don't want to bring this up. Like,
welcome to capitalism.
I'm tempted to bring this up because it's very much a parallel to what JonTron's doing now, but it's far more extreme and far less excusable. Back in 2017, this is actually what caused the Destiny debate. The thing that caused the whole drama was JonTron reposted an image that originates from 4chan, and it's a chart. And the chart argues that rich black people commit crime more than poor white people.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And he defended it vehemently. He defended it vehemently and argued that it was from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. As it turns out, the Bureau of Justice Statistics just doesn't collect the type of data that chart was alleging. It was completely made up. Not to mention, that chart was made to support the 1350 argument, the idea that black people, despite being 13% of the population, commit 50% of crime, and they must be doing this for some genetic reason. We got to do something about it, and this justifies racism in some way. That was an example that I think is very similar to this, where in his misinformed and politically motivated stupor, I guess, ended up spreading some misinformation, and that misinformation has some pretty sinister political talking points supporting it.
I mean, yeah, like obviously, because I actually do remember that now. I forget where I remember that from, but yeah, that was pretty cringe. I don't know if that being brought up as a talking point is more about him being bad at doing research, or him being having bad character. Probably both. But like I think more about what I had a problem with, to be honest, was that whatever his intention was behind these tweets that he made today. I just, and this is what I do, so maybe this is like a bad way of looking at anything, where I just go to the quote retweets and I just see a bunch of people just mad as fuck, right? And just shitting on this guy, right? And to be fair, like, I don't know if he looks at these, he probably doesn't, maybe he does. I feel like for your own mental health, you just probably shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, definitely not. But I do that sometimes because it's kind of like my job to like look at these people and then just like like roast them or whatever, critique what they're saying. But I feel like some of what you do or what you said in that video like definitely plays into like what these people like think. Like, and I'm not saying you're responsible for that. But like it's where was it? I'm sorry, I didn't come with files on top of files.
Well, I think this is interesting because I think there's a parallel between what you're saying that I'm doing and what I'm accusing JonTron of. Because you're saying that when I make these types of videos where I'm, responding to JonTron's tweets and I'm sort of impugning him for some of his behavior, I am lending credence and I'm giving a mouthpiece to to similar talking points coming from crazy people that are going after JonTron for reasons that aren't quite as valid, right? This happens all the time. Like going back to the anti-vax thing, there was a very popular left-wing narrative going around for a while that ivermectin was horse paste, horse dewormer. Now, ivermectin in larger doses is prescribed for horses and it is used as a horse dewormer, but in the past, ivermectin has been used for humans, and there are human versions of ivermectin, and they do have effective, and apparently at higher doses, it can also have useful antiviral effects. The problem is, and the reason why there was a lot of strife in the left is you had the people who were correct saying, okay, no, ivermectin is not horse paste. Ivermectin is something that's prescribed for humans. The problem is there is no evidence yet to suggest that ivermectin is an effective treatment for COVID. Not to mention, there are people who are buying horse paste, the actual horse paste ivermectin, because they can't get any of the human version, and they have been taking that, and that's also a problem. And there's just no reason to be taking ivermectin in the first place. There's no evidence that it supports that it's going to work. And then you had people who were saying, ivermectin is horse paste. These people are eating horse paste and they're shitting their guts out, and just spreading that misinformation that could very easily just be, emphasized on, or a little more details been added. And there's those people out there, and I argue against those people. I don't like people who take a somewhat correct statement and turn it into a harmful narrative, like those that would
Yeah.
be canceling JonTron for crazy reasons or being extra mean or extra abusive towards him that might not be quite as warranted.
Yeah. Um, Fair enough. So I guess like what I also done, and maybe I don't know if like this timeline is wrong or when you did this original live stream, but like on the top of his tweet, he literally says, "Just to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't get vaccinated. That is your
Mm-hmm.
choice. I'm not saying the vaccine is unsafe. I just want the best for everyone. I'm just concerned that the level of conformity around public discourse has reached dangerous levels." Now, you could say this is damage control. You could say that this is whatever you could say that he's coping. You could say any number of things as to why he's tweeting this.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like it's sort of where I'm at in this boat, right? Like I am vaccinated, right? Because I believe it's effective. I think that getting it is the right decision to make. But he also, I think he just raises a good point here. It's like I'm concerned that the level of conformity around public discourse has reached dangerous levels. Like I totally agree with that, and I I think that without a doubt, if we aren't going to raise an eyebrow at like anything ever, like the fact that on the initial release, that this vaccine was the cure or whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
100% effective, and then as it turns out, now months and months later, you're gonna need like a third shot, like um
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning. So the problem is that like the narrative around COVID has been so wild. Like even I have to admit, even CNN at one point did, and I generally like to think that like I know that like there's a big talking point, fake news, yada yada. But I think generally like big mainstream news outlets typically tend to stick with the truth on most things. Like generally, it doesn't seem they're quite as agenda driven as something like Fox News or OAN would be. But they have published some misinformation about COVID and the vaccines and stuff in the past. But for the most part, at no point was it ever claimed by anybody who was like super powerful that the COVID vaccine was 100% effective. No one ever said that we weren't going to need booster shots. I think there was an understanding pretty early on that if everyone didn't get vaccinated and COVID wasn't made essentially unable to spread throughout the population quickly, then there would be a need for booster shots for those already vaccinated. I mean, like and as for the claim that you're worried about public conformity about this, in the past we've done this exact same thing, but there was so much less pushback about it. The Spanish flu was the first time that America had mask mandates, and we eliminated the Spanish flu because people wore their masks, and that didn't just wipe out our colonial America. Same goes for polio. The polio vaccine was something that was just begged for. Like, it was a miracle. Like it was literally a miracle. The polio vaccine was, because it was such a deadly disease.
Of course.
And now we basically deleted polio. And I understand there's this idea that we shouldn't trust these big, rich, powerful people who control the world, like the country, basically, because they have so much power and money. But at the same time, it's like, we are in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, COVID isn't something that you want to get, and now we have a vaccine for it, and that vaccine has been demonstrated to, significantly improve your chances as far as the pandemic goes.
Yeah,
and the effects are stronger the more people get vaccinated. So people who are vaccinated, see people that won't get vaccinated, and they're annoyed by some of the misinformation, of course. But it's also like, you people not getting vaccinated are what are keeping things shut down and keeping this pandemic prolonged. We want to be outside doing our stuff and not wearing masks as much as you do. You guys are the ones that are continuing to prolong all of this. I want it to be over.
Yeah. No, dude, I like literally. I think. I mean, I would be. What the fuck am I saying? I'd be willing to bet that you're vaccinated.
I think I got Johnson & Johnson. I got the one shot dream.
That's kind of lame. I got Pfizer, bro.
I was going to get Moderna or Pfizer, like get a 2-shot one. I'll probably get like one of the booster shots from them. But there was like an event that we had to go to, or that we wanted to go to, and we need to be vaccinated for it. So we're like, okay, well, we got to do the 1-shot one. And we didn't get COVID and we didn't get sick. So it worked out well.
Yeah. So listen, like just because I think we're agreeing on far more than we're disagreeing on, which is good, which is that obviously, like, I think you should get vaccinated. I just don't think that you should be scrutinized to the level that someone like JonTron is being for like literally, and I'm gonna get mean on him for saying it, for literally just posting skepticism. Like, he's not, like, there are plenty of people who will outright just say, oh yeah, just do not get this vaccine, or don't, which is obviously fucking stupid. And I think even in the times of, like, if we go back to polio, which obviously comparable or not, obviously it's far more deadly. And I think in something like polio, we'd have less time to argue about, oh, well, it's 80%. Everyone would just get the vaccine. But maybe it is the fact that, like, that this, like COVID is just less deadly than, like, someone like polio, that we are, like, having these, like, discussions that's like, oh, this affected us or this or whatever. And I just like, here's the thing, like, you would probably, I don't want to assume what you would say, but I think that someone like you would assume that JonTron isn't vaccinated. Maybe he said that he isn't vaccinated, but I don't think that you can assume, like, where he stands just based on, like, questioning this. Because if this was written, like, if every tweet that was released was written by someone else beside JonTron, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they were vaccinated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
I mean, the rhetoric here just kind of worries me, because it takes me back to those old, like, 2016 skeptic days, where a lot of those people, like, nowadays, like, everybody knows, ended up being, like, crazy, your Andy Warskis and whatnot, where it was always called skepticism, like, what was her name? Like, not roaming millennial. I forget what her name was. Rage After Storm, I think her name was. This is a big thing back in the day. She started to popularize the white replacement conspiracy theory a lot on Twitter, and you started to see very left-wing people even supporting the white replacement conspiracy theory, and just calling themselves skeptics and saying they're just being skeptical. They're not going to listen to what the media is telling them. And it takes me back to that. And I remember what happened because of all of that. And it just worries me, because JonTron was doing the same thing as that back then. And it just feels like it's a repeat of the past, a thing he's done multiple times in the past.
Do you think, though, if somebody else did everything that JonTron did today, that you would view this like a different way?
I mean, it depends, because JonTron is, doesn't have really the best track record. If, like,
sure,
someone if, like, that Destiny went on Twitter tomorrow and was like, All right, there are some problems with the vaccine because there objectively are. There are some cases where the vaccine can be bad for you. It's pretty rare, but there's cases, and said yes, these are cases that exist, but yada yada. I probably wouldn't take as much issue with it because I'm pretty sure Destiny's most recent video was dunking on anti-vaxxers. He's
Yeah.
got a long and storied history of dunking on people who spread that kind of misinformation.
Can I just ask you this,
but I
though?
don't have the same faith in JonTron is the thing.
Right. And that fine. Maybe I just failed to take into account like your history with him or whatever. But I let me ask you this though, just based on like just remove the JonTron profile picture and name, just based
Mm-hmm.
on every tweet that was released, like let's say that you had no idea who the person was that like released them. Would you say that these tweets are like just the tweets are inherently anti-vax?
I would look at them and I'd be like, I have to admit, I'd probably look at them and say, yeah, the person who tweeted these is probably like kind of skating alongside the anti-vaxxer line.
Okay. I mean, because the way you said that there was like, oh, the person, is kind of skating along the anti-vax line is far different to what you said in your video, which is like JonTron is anti-vax and goes off and whatever. So,
Yeah, no,
I
I think he probably is like an anti-vaxxer. I mean, you can never know what somebody believes. I mean,
yeah,
if JonTron was actually an anti-vaxxer, if he was actually an anti-vaxxer, do you think he would be saying it? He got into a shit ton of trouble after his debate with Destiny.
of course not. Of course not.
JonTron's
Right?
learned. If he's an actual anti-vaxxer, the
Of
way
course
he would
not.
express
Of
that
course
would be in
not.
the way that he
That
tweeted those
he's
things.
doing it
That's-
now, of course, right? And I
Yeah.
get that, but I just I'm not the you are definitely right about that. We definitely agree on that, right? Where it's like, you know, yeah, exactly. Him saying this definitely has a big factor, right?
Mhm.
But I think it's just the biggest problem I think that I have with this is just like the people just seeing these tweets and some of them looking at it as like a standalone thing is like, oh yeah, what you're saying in this is inherently anti-vax. And you said, oh, it's kind of skating along the lines, which is far different than a lot of like what people are saying, which is like, oh shit, this guy's an anti-vaxxer, whatever the fuck, which I don't, or I don't think that's cool. I don't like that. I don't like the labeling.
Um, I mean, yeah, I get that. Labels can be pretty annoying at times because they can kind of eliminate nuance a lot of the time. It's part of why I've stopped using the label leftist for myself, and I just use progressive because it sort of gives a more accurate depiction of my politics. But at the same time, we use labels for a reason, right? When somebody comes out with like some pretty, borderline shit and they've got a pretty troubled history in regards to political stuff, people are probably going to go ahead and give the label anti-vaxxer because it's evocative. It gives a good idea of what you're talking about here and how severe you believe these accusations to be. As far as like knowing what he actually believes, you can never know what someone actually believes. You have to look at what they say and look at their history to sort of intuit it, because anybody who believes something problematic like anti-vaxxer stuff isn't going to outright say it. Same thing goes for like racism and stuff like that. Most racists online, like if they're a large figure, aren't going to be outright racist because they'll get banned for everything, so they have to dog whistle it.
Yeah. And again, like I told you I bounce everywhere politically. I watched Nick Fuentes for a week and I was like, oh, this guy kind of is like very weird and I don't like him. I think he's definitely hiding a lot of stuff.
Did you see him eat his boogers?
Did he do that?
Yeah, he ate his boogers multiple times on stream, and then one time he was picking his nose eating his boogers and his nose started to bleed because he was really digging. People call him Booger Nick because of that. He also recently, I don't want to turn this into like an anti-Nick Fuentes thing, but he recently went on a big
dude.
tirade.
I don't like him.
Neither do I, frankly. He went on a big tirade about how the age of consent is a feminist construct and it's bad as well.
Wait, did he actually?
Yeah, you can look it up. Nick Fuentes on the age of consent. You can look it up on YouTube.
That's so funny. I wouldn't put it past him though.
Yeah, his whole chat was spamming Vosh moment, which is kind of cope, but
He will not be treaded on. He will not be.
Yeah, don't tread on my rights to fuck a child. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to go over?
Well, I guess like the big thing that I want to understand though is that because again, like I don't know if I am gonna make this video. I only got like 3 minutes into it and I'm like really tired. But like I guess like the JonTron is anti. Like, can I ask you that? Do you think like
Mhm.
was that more when you put that on your title? Was that because that is what you like objectively like believe, or is that like just for like CTR or like because you thought it was gonna be like a good title?
Well, I didn't title the video, my editor did, but I don't
Okay.
really disagree with the titling, so I'll stand by it regardless.
Do you think that it's like
You
a little bit defaming though? Like a little bit?
To defame, I mean, to defame would be to allege something like that with no evidence. I feel like the evidence of JonTron's past doings and the association with the arguments he was making now, which are directly correlated to arguments made by like people we know are anti-vaxxers. Like watch any like
But
Candace Owens segment. Candace Owens has come out fully against vaccines. Watch any Candace Owens segment, she'll say the exact same thing JonTron did, because you kind of have to skirt around TOS to express that opinion without catching, the hammer.
I just that's fair, and you're right about that. Like that's just the truth about how like the that people behave that way. But I just like because this is something that I could probably I probably wouldn't tweet out because I like I said, like I'm vaccinated, like I don't really like care too much about like that, like the vaccine updates and like the new patch notes or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
just I don't really care. But because I just kind of like I'm done with that. Um, but like I feel like if I was to say like like let's say like, oh, it turned out this vaccine was only like 40% effective or whatever, like and if I just tweeted that, like and I had some person make a video on me, um just like with the title Acheeto anti-vax tweet, like dude, like that's pretty lame. I don't know.
I mean, it would depend, right? Like, if you're just doing like an update video on like, hey, it turns out the COVID vaccine is only 40%
Like
effective.
if I
I
dropped
mean,
the
forty
tweet,
percent
if
still isn't bad, but
yeah, no, no,
like,
no. Of course it's not, right? Like, but if I
yeah.
dropped the tweet that John did, and then someone did that about me, I'd be very pissed because it's just like, it's not accurate. Obviously, I think with someone, and and I'm sure that you could say, well, it's very different with John, and it probably is because maybe he is just saying this because he can't say don't get vaccinated or else he'll get banned. But I feel like to say that like what he did was inherently like right wing or that is
Mhm.
like anti-vaccine, it's just like not true. Like
I mean, we can't know what he believes. You can just kind of go. You have to go off of what he says
exactly,
and what you think
but
about it, right?
yeah, but I mean that's my whole point is that you can know what he
Mhm.
believes. But
Well, no, you can't. No one can read another person's mind. Like, you have to understand, when in this day and age, especially with cancel culture being a big part of it, people who believe things that aren't quite as politically accepted don't ever come out and outright say it, because when they do, they end up being ostracized to the darkest of the darkest depths of the internet, right? Like your Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes has been banned off of fucking D Live, right? When you believe in these types of things, like the anti-vax stuff, because most of these platforms consider it medical misinformation, or like in any like racist stuff, you can't just outright say it. You'll get in so much trouble. So modern day supporters of these ideas have learned to bury it in anonymity and ambiguity. I apologize, with like dog whistles and whatnot. And
yeah.
I know it's really annoying if you're like from the outside looking in, and you're not super politically left leaning, you're not super woke. It looks really worrying because it's like, fuck. Now people are just gonna look at like a joke that I make or something that I say off color that's like a gaffe or something, and try to interpret that and twist that into me being this or that or that. And I don't genuinely believe those things.
Mm.
I completely understand that worry because I've experienced it. I'm a very outspoken left wing YouTuber, and I get canceled by the left all of the time for the dumbest fucking shit. I know that feeling, and I hate it. But I think it's a force of nature. As long as there's young people on the internet who are fiending for as much drama as possible, regardless of their political affiliations, that type of thing is going to happen. What I try to promote is like a general responsibility within more mature than 14-year-olds with pit crew avatars on Twitter, I should say, more
Amen.
mature political spaces to try to view these things responsibly, right? Like, who's an example of someone who's like Filthy Frank? I would never say that Filthy Frank is a Nazi, despite all of the very edgy jokes he's made, because he's been quite open in the past about like how his character of Filthy Frank was meant to criticize people that behave that way. He literally wrote a book. He wrote a book that tells the lore of Filthy Frank. The character, I assume you know who that is,
Of
was like
course.
raised by Nazis in the story that he wrote. And obviously, we know Joji, who plays the character, is pretty progressive. I think that's a good example of like engaging in very edgy humor and edgy rhetoric, but doing it in a way that doesn't lead most people, I think, into thinking you're like a Nazi or really extrapolating what you're saying. Because I think he did it responsibly. In the way that JonTron's done it in the past, I think it's more indicative of his deeper political opinions, more so than a humorous or genuinely innocent attempt to bring up his worries about vaccination.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. You brought up something very, very like important that I am glad that you can recognize, which is, from the outside looking in, that it's like, well, you can't even criticize this vaccine without, your fear of scrutiny or whatever, which is like very true. And I think that what you also said about, oh yeah, well, we are never going to know what somebody's thinking or whatever, and people dog whistle like that, that could also be an excuse for people to take somebody who doesn't have the history of JonTron, right? Who maybe has spoken up against, like, said, oh, vaccines, there's this problem with that or this problem with that, that has no history of anything whatsoever. That they don't know this person. They just have to assume, oh shit, well, this guy's dog whistling. He's an anon on the internet. Well, what are his intentions or whatever? And they just kind of go to that. And I think that is the sort of thinking that, in a way, you sort of push. And I'm not, again, like, I'm not going to try to accuse you of anything like that, but I think the more and more comfortable we get, and obviously, yes, JonTron is probably an exception, but because of everything that he's done. But I think if anyone else or anybody who does not have as much of a history of like JonTron, like I said, was to say something about that, um, and then you make a video on them calling them anti-vax, and then you have a bunch of like people in the quote retweets just harassing the fuck out of this guy who is not as big as JonTron or anything like that. And it's like, well, guys, like, I am vaccinated. Like, I was just putting some research that says, well, this is the problem with that. I just feel like that you're not really helping that sort of destruction. Do you follow or not?
Yeah, I get it. I get that worry. And I typically try to avoid going after randos whose politics are ambiguous. Usually, if I'm quote tweeting some rando on Twitter, it's because they did something really weird. And I mean, it's just like, I do a lot of debates with people and I engage in politics a lot, and I find that people who have insidious motivations can be very sneaky with how they portray them, and their audience can be very naive to the fact that they have those opinions. Like, for example, I'm not comparing JonTron to these people. However, have you ever heard of lolicons?
It's like the child. Yeah, right.
Yeah. The lolicons are pedophiles. They're consumers of lolly porn, which is animated, like anime hentai child porn, specifically of young girls. And I got into some big drama because I started debating these people and arguing with them, and they started like brigading me and everything. And I would bring them on to debate, and they would make arguments to try to separate themselves from the label of pedophile as possible. They would say, no, it's not real. If you watch a horror movie, and does that make you a murderer? Things like that. They would make these arguments to try to separate themselves from that label as much as possible, as though their motivation lies more on separating themselves from a label with a bad connotation to it, more so than actually discussing why they believe what they actually believe. And that's just and I know that's an extreme example. I'm not comparing JonTron to pedophiles. I'm just comparing the thinking and the way of trying to justify your position. It seems more like people are afraid of being attached to a label than they are in defending their actual positions.
That's very true. No, that like, you're very much right about that. That's like, no, like, yeah, but I think, like, because part of why that is the case too, is because uh and this probably, and this does actually kind of apply in like maybe like the pedophile case, where it's like that label uh has certain implications that aren't exactly true to what that person might believe.
Mm-hmm.
because I don't, because like, listen, dude, like I don't know any pedophiles, but I feel like, I mean, truly, like who is to know? But I feel like if a person was like, oh yeah, I watch or I'm a lolicon, but I don't actually like real little people or like children, right? It's like, well, are you a pedophile or are you not? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the water gets kind of muddied. Um, but again, like with something like this, it's like, is JonTron telling people to not get vaccinated? Like, no. But is he like, being skeptical? Yes. Like, does that mean he's an anti-vaxxer? Well, I don't know. But calling him an anti-vaxxer also like is, first of all, I mean, he did say that like he's not saying you should or shouldn't. But I think
Yeah, I don't know. It just in JonTron's case specifically. Obviously, this is done on a case by case basis, right? I'm not here to defend any hypothetical cases in which some other person who doesn't have the same history as JonTron, who isn't the same person as JonTron, posts the exact same thing. I'm not here to defend a different case scenario where maybe I do the same thing in that area. I want to defend my specific actions that I engage with, specifically with JonTron, and I think the history of JonTron's political engagement lends more credence to my point than than you would think. I believe. Just going like I do recommend that like if you're watching this right now or even you like you should watch the JonTron Destiny debate, not just because it's actually really like entertaining. It's his best debate. It's everybody agrees it's his best debate. Yeah, Destiny's debate with JonTron.
Do you like Destiny?
I mean, I think he's an asshole, but I think he's very smart, and I think he's a very good debater. I think like when it comes to like his personality, he's an asshole. I think you would agree, and I think the reason a lot of people like him is because sometimes he's an asshole to the people that they don't like as well, and it's always nice seeing someone effectively be an asshole to people you don't like. You know.
True.
Yeah.
And GL, he's kind of like a nerd, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess what you said about it being a case by case basis is important. And I think you would have to agree that you are definitely biased when evaluating this case in particular.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm not. I'm by far like. There's a reason why in our criminal justice system, like, there's certain clauses to not bring up certain arguments in some court cases, but because it can bias the jury, and you're supposed to have an unbiased jury of your peers. But I don't think the internet operates in the same way as our justice system. Like as for JonTron,
well, yeah, obviously.
I mean, as for John, like we can't really. It's almost comparable to the argument that you'd hear from the right, like freedom of speech, bro. They can say whatever they want, right? So the crazy people on Twitter that are so cancel happy, they have the right to do that. It's their First Amendment right. But as far as like JonTron goes, I think he's going to be okay. If the Destiny thing didn't get him, then I don't think anything will fully permanently cancel JonTron to the point where he's in trouble.
Yeah,
short of
honestly,
like touching
dude,
kids or something.
yeah,
I don't know.
No, 100%. Like honestly though, like I'm in like because a lot of people here in your chat were like, oh, I'm like defending JonTron or whatever. Which like yeah, in this case, like I'm defending JonTron, but like to me, like I don't really like maybe this is why like we view this so differently, which is like I don't really care who said it. You really seem to do or to seem to care about that, and I care about like what was said. So that's probably what played a huge role into your evaluation of this case. But I think what to me like was because there are probably people who reached your same conclusion without knowing a single thing that he did, and that really bothers me. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, if there's people out there that are just like, here, this is something that I get pretty upset with, and the left does this as well. Just going off of headlines and talking points. Not a big fan of that. I do prefer when people actually inform themselves before making an opinion.
True.
But I think most people in my audience have seen the Destiny debate, and they're very familiar with JonTron's past. I think, especially because like the basically everybody in my chat right now at some point was a Destiny fan or was a viewer of Destiny's content, and it was probably the JonTron debate that they watched. It's like it was Destiny's magnum opus. It's what caused him to blow up. So most of my audience, the people who saw my video and were engaging like in my Twitter thread about it, were probably very aware of JonTron's past.
That makes sense. But I don't know. I just for some others who, because you have to admit that not everybody knows who you are. Not everyone knows who like Vosh is or people like that who just like, wow, skeptical of vaccine or you're an anti-vax who don't know who anyone or don't know a single thing about his history, but hop on the bandwagon of criticizing him because they just see that like everyone is and everyone who knows his history, which kind of leads into like that like do you know what I'm saying? Like just
Yeah, I mean, so my video may be hyperbolic, is as a way to word your argument there. But even if it is, I think my justification is there for why I said what I said about JonTron. But I would hope, as far as those other activities go, those other behaviors that we both agree are bad go, I would hope that most people who watch my video and hopefully continue to watch my content. That's ideal. That's what you hope for when you make a video as a YouTuber. Hopefully they'll continue to see more of my content, and I very frequently criticize people on the left who are super cancel happy and engage in behavior I don't quite agree with. There's people who like to accuse PewDiePie being a Nazi, for example. I've debated multiple lefties on my channel who came on to try to argue PewDiePie's a Nazi, and I defended PewDiePie and said, nope, I don't even think he's right wing. I hope that they would see more of my content and hear the justification behind why I don't like the super cancel happy stuff, and perhaps be moved in a direction that both you and I would agree is better for them.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Also, I'm pretty sure like PewDiePie is right wing though. Like I'm almost certain.
No, he's not. He's most certainly not. I mean, granted, time could have changed things, but like the one case in which PewDiePie was very openly political, and like genuinely was like sincere in talking about his political opinions, was on a podcast he did with his buddy Cry, I believe, back in 2014, where he was debunking the talking point that immigrants coming to countries like Sweden from North Africa, that they were raping a bunch and doing a bunch of crime, and he talked about how actually the
I saw
crime
that.
was being, yeah, and then he talks about how like the Swedish Democrats Party is super racist and white supremacist, and he hates it, and he hates that young people in Sweden are very right wing, and he also talked about how like it's immigrants from places like Finland and other Nordic countries that are actually committing more crime than immigrants in Sweden, and I think like when you're dropping truth bombs like that, I find it hard to believe he's leaning right at
all.
I mean, like maybe he's like edgy humor wise. I mean, he's also been talked about how he's pro gay marriage in the past. I mean, I just don't believe that his sincere political opinions lean that right. I'm like, if someone's like a lib, I'm okay. I'm like very easygoing with people's politics. You know, I'm friends with people that I disagree with on many things, like Augie, Bo Black's, Turkey Tom, and Nick Diorio.
Your friend, dude. I love Turkey Tom's the boy. I was gonna meet up with him. He doesn't live too far from me.
Oh yeah, he's a cool dude. Yeah, I'm friends with all of them, and we disagree on plenty of things politically.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we've had our debates and stuff, but we're still cool. They uploaded a new episode of their Half Baked podcast with me on there like 2 days ago.
That was sick, dude. That's awesome. Well, I don't want to occupy any more of your stream time. Plus, I gotta get to bed. But this is good talking to you. I'm glad that you were able to delineate more as to why you thought the way you did. I thought that was pretty epic. Your chat was not as mean to me as I thought they were gonna be. So I guess ring the bell icon, turn on all notifications for the Xanderhal epic live stream, and so what did you say? Support financially if you can. If you can't, you leave a comment. Do all the algorithm stuff. Leave the video running in the background with sound on so you can get more watch retention and watch time.
Yeah, play a playlist of my stream or of my content and just leave it on all night, frankly.
Yeah, collect all of your electronics in the household and make sure they're all running on VPNs, all playing the Xanderhal stream. Yeah, pretty much.
Make several accounts, you know, the whole deal. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a really fun conversation. I'm glad it didn't get super heated or anything.
Yeah, dude. I'm just glad that like just the information alone you wouldn't assume, because that's sort of what I was thinking, which I thought was like really, really outlandish, which is sort of like what he was saying, which was like, oh, it's because of like the information I'm saying, because I'm skeptical that people are coming after me, which didn't seem to be your case at all. So I'm glad that that's not, you know, how you felt, but yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
If you ever want to play some Rust, hit me up. It's my favorite game right now, and I want to build an absolute Zerg army in that game. So if you play it, hit me up.
Sick. I'll let you know, all right, dude?
Alrighty, have a good one, man.
Take care.
See ya. Well, that was a fun convo. I think that was pretty productive. That was way more productive than I expected it was going to be. I think with a lot of people politically, it can be pretty hard to convince people of like the super like progressive, super like more aggressive lefty positions, like defending cancel culture in some scenarios, or like sort of using insight to try to figure out what some people believe based on what you suspect may be dog whistles. It can be pretty hard to move people on that, but I think overall we had a pretty productive convo. What do you think, chat? Can we do a poll? Was that good? Good or bad? Let's do a poll. What do you guys think? All right, stop the vote. 100% of people say it's good. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, you guys know what to do. He said it earlier. Leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon, follow my social media. I'll link down below, especially my fan Discord. It's a free community of people where I debate people. I talk with people. We do watch parties of different shows and movies and stuff in there. It's completely free to join. It's a cool community, so go ahead and click the link down there and join my fan Discord. And of course, if you got the money for it, you don't need it for anything else, and you're completely fine with spending it, you can always support me financially, as this is my full-time job, and it's always appreciated through my website, xanderhal.com/live, YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, or through Patreon. But no matter how you support my content, whether it be a like, a comment, a subscription, or even a financial donation, I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you again, and have a good one.